everybody, Shell Brodnax here with another episode of Stager Talk. And I am super stoked today because we have what I'm referring to as one of our legacy members, Kim Kapellusch. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic, Shell. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We wanted to interview some of our legacy members. And for those of you who don't know what a legacy member is, it's a member that's been with us since day one. Pretty much since day one, our first year of people seeing the vision, understanding the vision, and sticking with it. And we launched in April of 2007. And so Kim, tell everybody how it was we first met about RESA and what was going on with you, and then what was going on with RESA and how we kind of got together.
Absolutely. So you and I met, I don't know if you had a RESA chapter kind of a thing, or I know it was left over from a prior convention as well. So you were kind of starting your own thing, and we were super excited about that. We wanted to, start forming a chapter here in the area, which we did. Unfortunately, myself and my partner were the only two members, but it was great. It was fun. We had regular meetings, and that was awesome. But we just really liked the direction that you were going in, and that you wanted to provide, a lot of places for stagers to get support and also, help each other out and create a community. And we were just all about that at that time. We were just the two little fish in the sea here in our area. And so we really needed that support.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the biggest messages through RESA is that we want to promote and to get stagers to understand that in order for stagers to really be considered a legitimate resource for real estate industry, we have to organize. So real estate agents, they're organized through their national association, title reps, mortgage, home inspectors. We're all part of their industry, the real estate industry, but staging, we have our own industry as well. So we're like a sub industry of a bigger industry. It's important, number one, that we're playing in their sandbox, but then within our sandbox, we have chapters throughout the US and Canada because it's important for stagers to organize locally. And then we have our education partners such as yourself. So people always ask us, well, why doesn't RESA just have a certification? It's like, oh, no, that's not what we're into. We're going to stay in our lane. You stay in your lane, we'll stay in our lane. So we want to promote the education providers. We don't want to come up with the program. And I've seen that business model fail. And I'm committed to not doing it because I want to work with the training providers. Let them do what they do best. Let us do what we do best. And then you have the resources, the vendors, the wholesale providers. So anybody it is that's supporting stagers is part of our sub industry of the bigger industry in real estate. So that's one of the reasons why it's so important to keep RESA going, keep legacy members as yourself or people that are members to stay longtime members through their entire career of their business, as we want to have something for everybody. So if you're just starting out, we always get a lot of new stagers into the industry. And remarkably enough, we find a lot of people are getting in, which I know you know this, they get in and they don't get education first. Mm-hmm. Crazy concept, because let me tell you, I don't know if I want to say, man, you are brave in getting this done. Or do I want to say, hey sis, what are you thinking? That's just nuts. Why would you open a business? So kind of a little bit of both, but I know for us and all of our polling that we've done of members is that usually around the 10, 11 month mark, they're going, I'm in trouble.
Should have had some help, right? Absolutely.
And then they reach out to you. And then how do you help them along their journey at that point? Once they've started and they haven't gotten any traction, how do you help them?
That's a great question. We do core training, basically. So people come to us that want to learn the business. How do you price? How do you put a house together? We do lots of hands-on. We have color theory that's all hands-on exercises. We go out into the field and work in homes. We do space planning. We do accessorizing exercises. And then, of course, it's all the business. Have to have the business. How, what is day to day? How do you organize your business? What are the apps and the softwares that you need to have? And how do you market? A lot of people think, well, I'm just going to get in front of agents, and that's great. But if you're not a social media guru, and there's so many things to starting and not knowing. So first of all, once you've done that, and agents that you're working with realize that you're brand new and you don't know the lingo and you don't know how to run a project and how to price a project, they're not going to use you because they are worried that something's going to happen down the road that's not going to be fixable between them and their client. So because you are sort of that liaison as the stager, you really have to appeal to both people, and you have to have the credentials and the know-how and the lingo and everything. And once you've made that first impression, we're all about first impressions. So once you've made that first impression and it's not a great one, that sticks, and agents talk and they tell everyone. Like, so when they're referring people, they're not going to refer you. Or if somebody says, hey, have you ever used this person? They're going to say, yeah, but I don't think they know what they're doing. I wouldn't recommend it. Yeah. And so it's really going to make it for a tough start. Getting that education first, it's so affordable when you think about what you can charge for staging. Your first job or two, you're going to get that back, and you're going to know what you're doing. You're going to have that great foundation. Yeah. And so that's really, and we are coming up with some exciting new advanced things. I want to cut in with that. So we'll talk about that maybe. But we are coming up with programs for stagers to attend after they're in business.
Cool. Well, we will have you back on another show and do something specifically, but you just said something. I just wrote a note of it that was brilliant, triggered in my mind. You know, we talk about the low price leaders, the stagers that are just, they're low balling. And we know you are on a fast race to go out of business with you do that. But it's this mind shift that people need to make, because on one hand, they say, I'm green. So because I'm new, I can't charge a higher price because I'm new. And I'm saying to people, let's unpack that a little bit, okay? Because if you are lowballing it so low, that is like a calling card. Hey, newbie over here, I'm green, I don't know what I'm doing, I'm so cheap, I'm giving it away. And then people, exactly what you said, they don't want to work with you because they're like, ooh, she's a newbie, she's too new. There's a big trust issue. Real estate agents are not the most trusting business people, for good reason. Because if they hire you and they bring you in and you do something to blow that deal out of their water, you're talking big commissions. They're talking more commission than what you're charging for the staging. So it's a fine line. But if you get education first, as you said, you'll know how to price the job. Hopefully you'll be more confident to do it that way and price more. Because what I know about pricing, you get those 3 pricing levels. I just had somebody did something on my barn. The first dude was 12 grand. I didn't like his vibe. I'm like, I don't want him on my property. The next one was 16. I was like, I like this guy. But another one was 20. I'm like, I really like that guy too, but I thought he overshot it. I went with the one in the middle. Beautiful job, well done, loved it. And that's how people work through when you're looking at pricing. So where do you want to be on that level? Do you want to be that low price leader where people are like, yeah, sketchy, I don't know what I'm gonna get. There's got to be something wrong with it. Or do you want to be the middle to the higher end?
Absolutely. It's so hard to raise your prices too once you have that reputation. Yes. But I will say this, here's your cue that you need to raise prices. There's a few things that happen. One thing is people say, well, you were the lowest bid, so that's why we picked you. Because that does still happen. Although a lot of people like the middle, like you said, because they think the low is probably not as good as the higher ones, and they don't want to pay the high price. Yep. But also, you're not going to attract, you're always going to attract those people that want that low price, and they're always negotiating and they're always bidding. Like, do you really want that energy in your life? But even the people that will tell you, your prices are too low. Sometimes I've actually heard that my price was too low. And I'm like, okay, that's the universe telling me I need to raise prices. If you're giving work away, you need to raise your prices. Keep yourself sane and be making more what you're worth, because obviously everyone has been flocking to you. And I know that's a great stroke of ego. Oh, everyone loves me. That's not necessarily true. Right. Everyone's coming to you because you have the cheapest price and you do probably a decent job. But that's another indicator that you're charging too low. And there's no reason to not earn what you're worth and really create that legacy for your future, whether you're going to sell when you exit or you're going to give that business away. You want to give something away or sell something that isn't, oh, we're the low price leader.
Yeah. Nailed it. Words of wisdom, people. I'm telling you, it's one of those things. It's this trap that people get in. And it's so hard to teach confidence as well with people, because you and I both know you can have 3 people bidding a job, and the one person can go in and an agent or whoever client's going to say, oh, I like your work, but this other person was $2,000 less. Can you lower your bid? We really want to work with you. There are people that are going to say, oh yeah, I'll do that just to get the job. And there's other people that are like, no. don't believe you. That's a tactic that people use for somebody who's less sophisticated than I am. So no, I'm not going to do that. I'll add something onto the job, or tell me what your budget is. If your budget's 2,000 less, then I can
take some stuff off.
Take some stuff off, meet your budget.
That's where I usually start when people try to negotiate. And I have to tell you that now that our prices aren't on the lower side anymore, we're trying to attract the luxury jobs and have been on that trend for several years. People don't call me and negotiate. It's interesting. And that's another thing. I think when you are in that low price, it's just attracts everybody that thinks they can get more. My favorite has been during the pandemic. Well, these houses, the house is going to sell right away. So, what, we don't think we need to pay that much. It's like the regular price. I haven't raised my prices during the pandemic, but, I don't think that I'm not doing any less work. I'm not bringing any less quality to your job because you think it's going to sell overnight isn't an indicator that I need to lower my price.
Right.
So yeah, definitely have the confidence out there, ladies and guys. Just, really what you're worth, own what you're worth. And I just find that people start to even almost belittle you. They say, oh, it's my first job. I'm an investor. I flip houses. And that's great. Maybe you do have another price point for your investors. But I have found that those people never come back. Or if they come back, then they say, well, I need it to be cheaper. This is my second house. Why are you charging me the same after they already negotiated the first one? So they just start to get kind of icky and mean. It's not worth it.
It's definitely not worth it. I know for me, we were talking earlier, I have a side hustle. I have horses and stuff. So I do a small boarding facility where I live, and we have 8 horses total. So what we would call my local competition keeps my barn full. All but 2 people boarding with me boarded at another facility first, then came to me, and they've been with me for 2 years now. They feed me. They literally feed me. And it's like, I don't need to speak negatively about them. I know who they are. They have policies and procedures and things that they bend on where I do not. And I get asked, it's the same thing, like a contract. You want to lower your price? Can you let my horse come here with no vaccines? Well, of course I cannot do that. I'm a professional. This is a professional facility. This is what we do. Your horse, your choice, my barn, my rules. You don't have to vaccinate it, but if you want it to live here, you have to. Yes. It has to be vaccinated. So you just kind of stick with it. It's the same concept, exact same concept. I couldn't agree more. So let's talk about the future. We talked a little bit about how RESA is organizing for home stagers. The purpose of doing that is raise awareness about the legitimacy and the professionalism and the excellence in real estate staging to the consumer, and the consumer is either the homeowner or the real estate agent. But then also with what RESA does with support services for stagers and working with our education providers, the future of staging, where are you seeing it in the next 10 years based on we've been in the business 20 years now?
Right. I think there's no substitute for seeing and feeling it in real life. So I don't see that staging is going to go anywhere. And I know that the virtual staging's been around. It's been around now almost a decade. And it really, in my opinion, has not really taken over any work that I would do. That's for people who don't believe in staging or are not going to pay for it anyway. So I don't know that there's a way that you convert those customers anyhow.
They're not your client anyway.
Right. So yeah, they're not your target market client. So I think that that's still going to stick around. So until they can successfully throw images up on top of walls in broad daylight, I think that staging is going to be around. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Me too. Funny you mentioned that. I met with somebody, oh gosh, I bet probably 8 years ago. They actually came out when I was in California and met with me. And the concept was QR codes would just be stuck in different locations of a home. And then a tablet or a phone, look at it. You can
see what it could look like.
And then it's all of a sudden it's staged where it's not like a hologram that's projecting anywhere, but you see it on your phone as if it would be. And I'm like, Interesting idea. Here's the problem that I see with something like that is the exact same problem with the virtual staging, is that you still need to understand staging in order to make it work. Because how many virtual stagings have you seen? Have you seen the virtual stagings where they have, like, in the bathroom, the toilet seats lifted up and then they've got all the toilet paper sitting?
I have seen some horrible virtual staging, and I'm like, first of all, it doesn't look real. Second of all, like you said, they've left dishes on the counter or whatever. And I get it's not the photographer's job to clean up, but at least, think of what's going to be in that photo. He can't take all the dishes off the counter, or
Exactly.
like you said, put the toilet seat down it's just interesting. It's a whole different mindset and concept.
Yeah. And then even in the virtual, like with the toilet paper, it's like, no, somebody made a conscious choice to take the image of toilet paper and stick it there. And it's like, it wasn't already in the bathroom shot. They purposely put it there. And it's like, oh yeah, that was a real bad idea.
Yeah,
really bad idea.
A lot of times the photographer is doing it. They're doing the virtual staging. And so they have no idea. I mean, they photograph houses, and I'm sure they've been in nice houses that they photograph, but they don't probably have a concept of like what it should look like if they're going to start from an image and add things to it. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree.
The other thing is I actually had someone that had their house virtually staged. They asked us to put a quote on it, and it looks amazing in the photos. So obviously this guy did a bunch of extra work, but when you get there, the house it was like a gut job. I mean, it really needed a lot of work. So when there was no actual furniture in there, it was really hard to kind of, probably for anyone to, it almost feels like a bait and switch, right? Yeah. Like you think you're walking into this amazing looking home, and the reality is it's not that at all.
Yeah.
And you don't have the experience of what it would have been like if it were actually staged. It would have looked better, and it would have felt better actually staged. I don't know if it would have helped a ton. It still needed work, but at least that would have shown up probably in the photos.
Yeah, for sure. Could not agree more. So let's switch gears a little bit. What's your why? What's your why for being in this industry?
I just love taking something that needs work and seeing the result, and it's just amazing, right? And you just look, and I don't know. To me, it's like a puzzle, and I put it together, and it turns into this thing, and it evolves. And a lot of times, I've been doing this so long, I have it all in my head, what it's going to look like. But then when you get in the house, there's always something like, oh, I forgot that wall was there, right? And so everything has to shift. And then that's another thing that I like about it, because there's a lot of last minute things that are different or don't come out like you thought. And that requires yet another skill set to make it still come out like it was meant to come out. I don't know. I just love putting it all together. That's the part I like. I like putting it all together and seeing how it comes out.
Yeah. So you're very creative and you're goal oriented with that. And with me, like for my why, I just like serving people. I like helping others to help them grow their business, give back to an industry as a whole. Some of my best days are when a member calls and they just want a quick coaching session on something. And I take, 30, 40 minutes and walk them through. And when they're calling me, they're in tears. And when they're leaving, they are high as a kite. And I'm like, okay, step it back, Sheila. Let's just come back into the universe. You're going to be all right. But they leave and then they're really happy. And then they follow up and they're like, it worked out. And there's so many of those things, those moments that I just absolutely love. And I agree, when you take something and you cultivate it, and then something has to change. So like with what you're doing, it's not the same thing every single day, every single staging. It's not boring because you have to pivot, and then you have to problem solve going, well, that was interesting. This didn't happen. How do I fix this quickly? And the same thing with us here with what we do. It's something different every single day. It's a really fascinating industry.
It is. And to your side too, I'm a stager, and we also teach. And so the part I do love about teaching is seeing the students evolve. They kind of show up and they're really excited, and then they start working on these exercises, and you can see the wheels turning, and they're getting it, and they're proud of themselves, and now they have the confidence to really do it, and they know they can do it. And I do love that part of it, and giving back. And we have students, graduates that are more successful than I am. So I always feel really good about that.
Yes,
really
that's
great.
the goal. You know what, Kim, you're so insightful when you said that, because there's so many people, let's say people, they don't want somebody to get ahead of them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, this is
I
about,
think it's competition, you know, and I don't feel that way. I don't feel that way. I feel like I'm helping my fellow, I don't know, humans in kind of getting to where I am, and they'll love it, and maybe even further and beyond. And
and you take pride in seeing their successes. I mean, I could see it in your face when you come back and you watch this. Watch your face when you say that. So I'm gonna remember. This is your reminder, Kim.
Okay.
You watch this, because it's important that, you know, people give back. There's so many giving people in the industry, and I know a lot of people. You know, we have chapters throughout the U.S. and Canada, and a lot of times when you're new and you come into the industry, people are like, "Why would I sit in a room with, you know, 15 other stagers?" And I'm like, oh my God, why
wouldn't you?
It's a goal of mine. Are you kidding me? Network. You go bid a job at 9 a.m. Sally will be there at 11. Meet at Panera Bread at 12:30 and have lunch, or, you know, go to PF Chang's and have a key lime martini and some kung pao chicken and discuss it. It is really literally okay that two people bid a job. You're going to get one time. Somebody else is going to get it the next time. It all works out.
Absolutely.
And when people have that attitude, it works out even quicker and it works out more. But if it's mine, you don't grow. You don't have that aeration in your mindset and in your business processes. But when you're mixing with other people and you do have good relationships, I mean, number one, it's a lot harder for people that you're friends with to kind of, a lot of women will say, you know, stab you in the back, or, you know, to be mean to you, or to talk about negatively about you. It's a lot more difficult when that happens when everybody's working together and you're just all cooperating together. It's like, there's literally no reason to have negative feelings towards anybody.
You know, when I first started, Shell, Janet and I, we get called to a lot of the same jobs because we're from the same area. And we made a pact. We just said, and, you know, certainly you could do this with other stagers. We just said, hey, if you get it, I'm going to help you and we're going to split it. And if you get it, so like, it didn't even matter who got it. And we would actually brainstorm and say, okay, you give them this number and I'm going to give them this number. And they would pick one of us anyway. So it didn't really matter. And then we would share the job.
Exactly.
So it was great.
That's a brilliant way to be able to look at it, especially if you're newer into the industry. My thing, you know, like I said, you and I go back 20 years. We've been doing this.
It's a long time.
We've been doing this for a minute. February was my 20th anniversary, 20-year
Wow.
anniversary.
Fantastic.
Incredible run that it has been. And I'm losing my train of thought. No, I'm back on it. So after I went off of selling staging training classes to people, then I was able to move into staging. I thought, well, easy transition to move into start a staging business. And for 4 months, I had more business that I knew what to do with. And I can't stand doing the actual staging.
Wow.
I don't like it.
That's hilarious. That's the part I like. If we lived together in the same area, I would be a good business partner for you.
That's exactly. And I could not find somebody with the other half of the brain. You got right brain, left brain issues going on. It's like, I can do it. I can pick out furniture and I can get it done, but I'm likely going to put a hole in your wall if I try to hang some artwork. Just saying. It's just not my jam. It's just not my passion. I don't walk into a room and say, I'm so excited. These throw pillows are to die for. They're this aubergine color. And it's like, no, that's not me. That is not me. However, if you reverse it around and you're like, okay, I've got, 5 bids I'm going to go do today, and I'm keeping track of who I'm talking to, and I know what my sales ratios are, and I'm doing, that's my jam. I'm like, all right, I'm into that part of it. So very quickly I found out, and plus I had my fiance at the time, who's now my husband, working with me, and I had to fire him. It was just a bad situation. So he was like my partner at the time, but it's like when you go to D stage, and we bought a U-Haul truck from day one. I'm like, we have to have this. It's an investment. It makes sense. He would de-stage, and he would literally go into the bedroom and start at the bottom of the bed, roll like this with his hands, roll up the comforters, and then threw it on the bottom of the floor of the
of the truck. Yeah.
And
most boys could care less about any of that kind of stuff, the pillows and how any of the furniture is treated or the fabric being on the floor.
And I'm like, cha-ching, damage, cha-ching, that just cost me $80. So it's like, you're fired, you're so done. So I couldn't find a business partner. So I stopped doing that and started doing the coaching, and then ultimately got with all the other education providers in the industry who said, you know what, we needed, at the time it was big and Active Rain. Remember those days?
Yes.
Yes. And
I just got a job off Active Rain.
Get out of here, really?
Yeah. A lady called me and I said, where'd you find me? And she said, Active Rain. I'm like, really? I don't even.
Wow.
Like, that stuff is just so old. Yeah. So I have my VA working on it. I'm like, go in and update it. I don't know. Maybe it's
who knows? Hey, I'd have to go back and take a peek at it. We were all so big in that day, but it was really the springboard to all of us stagers, professionals in the industry, to be able to pull our resources together and really start networking and communicating and building the industry. I think that's one of the biggest things. I think the proudest accomplishments of RESA is that we didn't have an industry before. We had a lot of segments of individual people doing a lot of different things, but through the cultivation of RESA, we now have the industry. So you have RESA, you have your education providers, you have your support services, you have your members, which are stagers, and it's all come together. It's really come together really nicely. I'm so happy about it.
Yes.
I'm so happy the way things are now. It's a different time frame. And would you not agree? Staging has evolved. It's not staging 20 years ago, not the same.
Yes, was placeholders, and it was just so people knew where the sofa was going to go and so on. But now, yeah, it's very, especially, my target market is Los Angeles County. And so people that are staging here, it's like a design job now. It is really, you really have to have the skill set and the taste and the confidence and access to that quality of an item to be able to pull it all together. Yeah, it's really, the people who aren't doing great staging don't last at all.
Yeah, I would especially agree with that in your area. I mean, people always say, California, everybody gets it about staging, and it's like they didn't in the beginning. It was a hard sell 20 years ago, especially remember in the early 2000s where things were selling $300,000-$400,000 over list price. Just you blink at it, it's like, all right, it's selling. And then now people are saying, it's a hot market. Why are they wanting to sell? Well, we just did stats in 2021 of things that sold over list price, where it's a seller's market and things are flying off the shelves and things are still selling quickly, but you're making 40 grand more. So it's like a no-brainer. You're staging free at that point.
Absolutely. And to me, there's always, the mortgage guys in the area are like, oh, this is going to go on for like 2 more years. I'm like, there's no way it's going to happen. But what's interesting, I feel like staging gets touched for a segment of that. When prices are rising, then everyone's calling the stager, oh yeah, get me more, right? And then there's this peak part where things are flying off the shelves, and maybe they don't want to invest in staging right now. But the minute it turns that corner and people have to try to chase that gap, that's when we get really busy. And I feel like it makes up for maybe like that little peak time where everybody said, nah, I'm going to get 20 offers no matter what I do. So I don't know. I just think that there's really not a slow time necessarily with staging. We do interior design too. We also teach interior design. And that really helps with those gaps, because when the economy is flush, people are redoing their homes. Right now, a lot of people are updating. They're like, wow, my house is worth so much money. I should probably update. I'm updating. So, it's just kind of the psychology of people. And also depending on what's happening in, is it election time? Is there a war going on? Sometimes people, those types of things affect it too.
Yeah.
And sometimes people just kind of stop for a minute. They want to make sure that everything's safe before they move. But I feel like by this fall, it's just going to be gangbusters again.
Yeah.
With the staging.
I agree. And I would say, since we're forecasting right now, everybody, if you're watching this before July 2022, jump into RESACon. One of the biggest things that I hear from people that have gone to RESACon is that they come in at like year 3 or 4 where they think, oh, I'll do it when I have some problems. And I'm like, oh, it's like not getting education before you start your business. Go to RESACon your first year in business, your second year, go every year, because there's something literally for everyone. Prevent the problems from happening so you don't have to fix them later. So we're going to be in for a boost this fall. I totally agree with that. and get
Awesome.
some education. If you're not trained right now, please seek out some training. Where can everybody reach you, Kim? Can you give us your website address?
Yes, it's the Academy of Homestaging and Design.com. And just super quick, we're in development now for established stagers. If you want to check us out in Maui, we're planning for January, and it is going to be a deep dive into your business and what are the next steps. So our phone number is 800-574-5576, 800-574-5576.
Excellent. So if you're interested in that, reach out to Kim. She will gladly take care of you. And that would be a great trip to be able to go on, get a little bit of vacay, get a little bit of business. It's a write-off.
It is a
write-off. You can write it all off. It's so brilliant to be able to do a destination
training. Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely. And for those who want to go to RESACon, just resaconvention.com. Check it out. We're still in early bird pricing. I believe that goes up April 11th. I hope we don't need to edit this. I think it's mid-April 11th. I think it is for the last early bird price. So thank you for joining us.
Thank
30
you,
minutes
Shell.
go by like this, I tell you.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited for you that you're so happy and you have your horse thing going on. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Love it.
Well, thank you for being on the show. I really appreciate you. I appreciate all you're doing to get potential stagers trained and ready, giving them their core foundation training so they can hit the floor running instead of hit the floor and trip over the floor mat and everything else that's going to be laid in front of them. So I appreciate you. For everybody else, until next time, Shell Brodnax here with Stager Talk.